But those certifications don't teach you to think like that. So on top of their resume was doing more telling than showing. So they had all these buzzwords for things you can get um, to possibly try to get a blue team role, but it wasn't lining up right. And then there was another guy I talked to, and he might be watching the stream. Uh, though he had some good stuff on his resume, I was like, well, you got all these keywords on here. But you just went to job descriptions and threw them on here. I was like, if the recruiter, whoever look at your resume, they be like, just because you got this on here, I don't see you utilizing this stuff. So it's like he was talking about he want to be, I think, at ISO, but he's talking about NIST, RMF, and CSF, and all these other things. But I was like, well, we don't see you showcasing using any of those things on here. So how they are supposed to believe you even know how to utilize this stuff? And once I said that to them, they kind of got it. I was like, you can't just add keywords and thinking it's going to help you go get an interview at Netflix.
Yeah, you
Everybody be on there. This video is being sponsored by Textual Consulting. Are you still struggling to get into cybersecurity? Are you not getting interviews? Do you have a bad resume? Or is it all the above? Well, if that's you, then we got you covered at Textual Consulting. My name is Henri Davis. I'm a career coach and a cybersecurity professional, and I've helped hundreds, maybe even thousands of people get into cybersecurity with my coaching and my content that you've seen in various places. Now, I specialize in specifically getting people in the blue team. That would be incident response or SOC analyst. I can cover everything from your entry level to your medium to your advanced skills and really help you outperform your resume. You don't believe me? Check out some of these testimonials that I've had from recent clients. So if you're interested, click the link in my bio, textualconsulting.com/offerings to see what offerings that we have available for you. Now, back to the show.
You really need to learn how to illustrate your impact and make sure you're telling the best story. You have to tell the best story about who you are, what you know how to do, what your skill set is. And I think that's the thing. I feel like a lot of the times folks are doing stuff, but they're not able to translate that into impact that will make someone want to hire you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, and the thing too, like, people majority of the time they'll hire you because they like you. They'll see like, okay, you might not know a lot, but we can train you in this space. But because they actually have a vibe with you, they actually like who you are as a person. You're a company fit like for the culture, right? You can identify well, you have the people skills, you can communicate effectively. They see that you're probably just being just all in. They can see your passion. And that's the thing. Like you have to. It's gonna sound bad, but you have to sell yourself. You can have an okay product, but if people really like rock with you, they're gonna rock with you and they're gonna want you on their team. Like, yeah, you can get all these certs and everything and speak all the techie stuff, but if the person doesn't like you and they see that you're not a fit for their culture, they're not really gonna like get you in, right? So I mean that's just and I know it depends also on the company and everything else, but for the most part, you know, it goes back to networking, right? Making meaningful, and even the term networking, I like saying meaningful relationships. If you make those meaningful relationships and meaningful connections with people, right, and they see the type of person that you are, right, that you're trustworthy, you're genuine, you're sincere, you actually care for people, you actually want to help people, man, that's going to go a long way for you.
You know what? To add on to that, I completely agree with what you just said. But I think that HD said something earlier, and he was talking about like companies taking a chance on you. But I don't think that people should go into the mindset of, I just want the company to take a chance on me. He's supposed to go in there thinking that you are the best choice or the best person for the job at that time. Because coming into it thinking that, oh yeah, I just want a company to just take a chance on me, doesn't sound like you are confident in yourself and your abilities. They could just say, hey, you know what? I like you. You're willing to learn. I'm willing to coach you. I think that you'll fit in with the team. I think that your current skill set or experience is good for what we're looking for. And also, like, that's almost like saying, if I took a chance on you, that means that we could have hired somebody else, but we just told them no, and then we hired you instead. not understanding that not everybody has the same skill sets or experience that you have. And then also the point about the resume and just putting things on there. Every single skill that you have on your resume needs to have a story or a bullet point associated with it, detailed out in your experience. So that way they can see how you utilize a specific skill. Because if you put something on there that you don't really know, you may have used one day in one class or one lab, they may
Mm,
ask you to go up to the whiteboard and start answering some questions, and then you won't know what to, know the answer. So make sure that you are being truthful about your experience as well.
No, I agree. So I'll clarify that point about taking a chance. That's for the people who really don't have a lot of experience. And
yeah.
they probably looked up and got an interview. And so it's like, what are you going to say that's going to make them want to take that chance on you? Because, like I said, a
Yeah.
lot of people, all their experience have been in service desk or help desk, and maybe they didn't do any projects or didn't, but they luckily got an interview.
Mhm.
At the point, the company is taking a chance on them because they haven't proven that they can technically do the job that they're getting interviewed.
Mm,
Yeah, but then
I've
I'm more so just saying it as in having confidence in yourself to, hey, I know that I can go into this interview and do well, because if you go in there and you're real humble and you're like talking like, oh, I'm not really that good, or I worked on this little small thing in this one little lab, people already gonna try to
mm,
make things hard for you when you go into interview. If you go in there like with low confidence, they just gonna bring you even lower. At least start up
yeah.
at the top, and then they bring you down to maybe the middle.
No, that's
I've told the story about
Yeah.
my experience with this situation where someone took a chance on me, but they did pick apart my resume and literally asked me about every single thing that was on that resume. Well, what's the difference between this tool and this tool? When
Yeah.
would you use this tool? And it was like 4 or 5 of them, and that was honestly the hardest interview I've ever done, still to this
Yeah.
date, because they
Wow.
picked it apart. And I'm glad that before the interview, I had went back to study my resume and looked at the labs that I was referencing in my write up from those labs, so that it was fresh on my mind, and it wasn't like I felt caught off guard because I wasn't prepared for this question, or I wasn't prepared to explain how I use Nmap or Zenmap or any networking tools. And so don't lie on your resume because it will be apparent, and you could potentially be eliminating yourself from a potential opportunity. So make sure that you know the stuff that you're listing and that you're able to speak to it. And it's okay if you need to study your own resume to refresh your memory. If you're not doing some of these things actively, that might be something that you need to do more often, to make sure that at the drop of a question, you're able to chime in with what you do know about that particular topic.
Yeah, and man,
Facts.
it gets hard. Another thing we're not even bringing up is that some people have accents, so it makes the interview even more difficult. And like especially if you aren't even really used to working with like diverse groups, and that's going back to that diversity, right? So if you are working with people from like other cultures or other like countries that may not be like English may not be their first language, and then you don't also know a lot of the like skills, or you haven't really worked with a lot of the tools professionally or in production, and you go up in the interview and you have all these different programming languages and tools that you saw
Mm,
on a YouTube video, and then now they asking you what HDBC is, and you're like, what is that? Like I did. And they're talking about the Java database connector when it's JDBC. I'm like, oh, you mean that? You thought you said H. I think it's J. So stuff like that will happen. So make sure that you understand your paradigm of what you're trying to do, and go out there and network, because that can also help you with getting the interview and also the job as well.
yeah. You
yeah.
got
But
to get the captions to the interview.
Right? Yeah. Capture that about.
yeah. No, yeah, those putting those bullet points in the skill section and just putting those one word skills, it ain't gonna cut it nowadays. Like you're gonna put seam, PowerShell, what else? Wireshark Nessus, like Okay, what about these tools that you're proficient in? Because you just put those bullet points, they're just gonna be like open ended, and then that's when what Cyber Shorty is gonna say, they're gonna look at your resume and they're gonna question you on all those things, and if they want to be, you know, I'm not gonna say the word, but they don't want to be good to you, they're gonna go ahead and ask you some crazy questions regarding those tools.
Yeah. And stop using these AI tools to auto mass apply and change up your
But
resume.
Yeah,
I
that's
also feel like necessarily it doesn't even have to be that it's not they're not being good to you, because they might want to know, do you actually know this stuff before we decide to bring you on board? It's okay. Like they asked me a couple questions and I was like, instead of guessing, I'm like, I don't know. But what I would do is I would look that up, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
I would get some context first.
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah,
Yeah.
well, if
And
you don't
sometimes
know,
it's a good
don't
fit
make it
for
up.
the team. Sometimes it's just they be like, hey, whatever you said in that personality sprint, maybe they just wasn't rocking with it. Now sometimes you think, hey, I pretty much said everything. Like I think the hardest thing, if I be honest, and a lot of people run into this, like you get to the end rounds and you're just thinking these people body language is good towards you, but they're just professional fakers.
Mm,
That could be discouraging. I'd rather you show that, hey, nah, I ain't rocking what you said, fam. That could be a big issue to somebody because you thinking the whole time we're good, the whole time say we're sorry to inform you, but yeah, they went with somebody else.
yeah. Dude,
Oh man.
I was in this awkward interview last year for a position in for GRC, like about 8 hours away from where I live. I don't know what I was thinking about applying to, but I wanted to at least get the interview experience. So I went with it. And it was so awkward. So I was just interviewing with the manager. He was like very, very dry. And he would ask me a question regarding, NIST and one of the other compliance standards. And I would answer him, and he would just like stare at me with his stone cold face and just like, okay. And then he kind of like would challenge me, like if he's trying to like show me that he knows more than me. But I'm like, I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm just answering your question. I want to get hired.
Yeah.
But it was a very awkward interview. Very awkward. I didn't, even if they would have given me the job at the end of the day, I probably would have just said no. I would have moved.
Yeah, that's their interview style. A lot of interviewers are like that, and then I think the worst one is where they purposefully act rude to you during the interview to stress test you. That's another interview style that you may encounter, and I've encountered it myself, where the interviewer was like asking me about my experience, and then would just cut me off. And I was like, oh, okay, I've worked on this tool. Oh, how did you use this tool? Oh, okay, well, I did this. Okay, well, explain to me what the difference is between this tool and like the difference between MySQL and MS SQL for Microsoft or something. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I can tell you the differences is that the brand name or something or some different functions are different. No, I want you to go down each keyword and tell me the differences between them. This was like a real question they asked me. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't, off the top of my head in the interview, tell you all the different keyword differences between two different technologies. So, like, those are some things that you run into sometimes. But usually, when people make things hard for you in the interview like that, it most likely means that it's probably not going to be a good environment to work for anyway. Get the experience to interview, move on to the next one.
No, that's facts. And I want to welcome Damien the Great to the panel. He kind of been over there
Yo,
kind of quiet.
what's going on, y'all? I didn't want to interrupt y'all. I know y'all was having a deep conversation, but I was agreeing with definitely like if you walk into an interview and like your interviewers are just being rude, just and it's like a hostile environment, being hostile, like 9 times out of ten, the environment in itself is going to be hostile and stressful. You
Mhm.
probably don't want that for yourself. I've been in several interviews where it was like that. I'm just like, yeah. I also think that one thing is like I'm very big on diversity, and if I am going through like several different rounds of interviews and I don't see at least like of a diverse list or panelists or a diverse number of different people from different backgrounds interviewing me, that's also a red flag as well. Because I'm just like, Did you hire the same race for this position, or is this like kind of locked?
Mm,
What's going on with that? So I see that a lot too.
Oh yeah, that's
mm,
facts. I know, like I was telling my client, he just I think he accepted his offer for Capital One, and I was telling him I talked to them before, and I liked that they had a black dude on the panel, was cool down to earth, had locks, and he was knowledgeable, knew a lot of stuff. Came from I think Chevron, if I'm not mistaken. I can go look it up after this. And I was like, that stood out to me because like you'll go through like 30 interviews and I see nobody do it like you.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
I've only had one person that looked like me that interviewed me,
yeah, and he be like,
and
advocating for me.
and I did feel like she was in my corner, and I did get the job.
Hey,
Awesome.
mm.
we
That's
love
what's
that.
Awesome.
up.
That's what you need
Yeah.
sometimes. They give you
As
a
I
lot of
said, go ahead.
feedback sometimes.
We need a lot of what? I'm sorry.
Vague feedback. Like, nah, just tell me like, what I could have did better or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they do that for compliance. Like I remember, I asked for feedback. They were like, "Oh, I'm gonna ask the hiring manager for feedback for the role. Why you didn't get it." And then I actually can't even really share that with you right now. They didn't even take any notes. That was actually what one of them said. They was like they didn't take any notes. Like they didn't provide any feedback. So you got to make yourself like yeah.
We already have an internal candidate, but I didn't want to let that stop me from wasting your time.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's facts.
Somebody in the comment, Loadout Lab said it also helps interviewing when you don't necessarily need the job. Bro, my confidence was through the roof. And that is so true.
That's true.
It's so true.